Welcome back. We've got another great episode of Time Out, your no-flop zone here. I'm Boti Nodge with Joey Wright. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Paddy Mills. We're going to be talking about the new Wildcats logo, controversies with Kendric Davis and the Adelaide 36ers. We're going to cover quite a lot of ground. So close to 1,000. Have you checked? Subscribers, we're like a handful off. So, there's 60% of you have not subscribe. So just if a couple of you just hit that button, we're going to go over 1,000 and we'll explain in the show what that might mean. But let's get going. Yeah. All these rumours about Paddy Mills, that he's going to be playing for Perth, or he's going to be here, or he's going to be there, he's buying Cairns. He's general manager of the University of Hawaii basketball team. Even Hawaii Pacific's not quite the right one, but near enough.
Not a bad place to be. Not a bad place to be at all. It just goes to... Paddy's just great to have around anywhere.
Yes.
Have him there, a part of your program, maybe doing a little recruiting. I wonder how much he'd be actually involved in the day-to-day. It seemed like he would need a year or two to just get acclimated and figure out the next move. But this is great for Hawaii and great for Paddy as well.
Taking it as a full-time position, full-time role, which would therefore exclude playing.
I haven't heard of general manager, that particular term at the collegiate level. I mean, I guess you can name anything you want, but I haven't heard that particular term, so I'm not sure what the role would look like. But I'm sure it'll be a benefit for the
with the rules changing in terms of paying players, etc. At the university level, obviously there might be some new titles and new roles for people in administration.
That's true. It's basically professional at this point in time.
Yeah, but so we're unlikely to see him, and he's unlikely to be buying Cairns anytime soon, although they've reappointed Adam Forde.
I love that.
Yes,
I actually love that. Cairns is one of those teams you watch and, they're going to be exciting no matter what. And sometimes it's probably not the excitement they want, but just as a fan sitting there watching it, they're always fun to watch. Forde does some great stuff out there on the court.
Yep.
He's such a great coach. So I'm glad to see him back. I'm actually genuinely glad to see him back.
I was actually a little depressed when he said he was moving on.
Me too. Yeah.
He was starting to get something happening there. He's only got Sam Wardenberg, Kyron Galloway, Alex Higgins-Titcher and Cody Statman at this stage, but a couple of imports, and he'll find another Australian gem somewhere.
Yeah, he does it every year. He'll dig up one or two Australian gems, and then he'll bring in some good imports, and they'll be competitive. They're always going to be competitive, and let's just say it right now, they'll beat the best team in the league next year. At some point, they're going to beat the best team in the league next year.
Next Thursday in Cairns, if you're a Taipans fan, there's a town hall meeting with the NBL executive. So I think that might be to discuss ownership going forward of the club. It sounds positive. So if you're a Taipans fan, get along with that. You can find it on your own socials as to where it is. That would be good. It would be nice to have a regional team like Illawarra that has its future, taken care of. That they don't have to worry about, will we be around in a year or two.
Yeah, it'd be great to see.
Okay, let's move on. Malique Lewis, he's coming back.
I'm surprised.
Are you?
I'm surprised because he can go to college.
Mm.
He could, he could probably pick up $500,000 by going to college, or at least $300,000 or $400,000 going to college. But I did like his role last year at Phoenix. I like what he did for Phoenix, and if he comes back, more confidence, more of a major role, he could really be a standout.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Josh King has now learned his game, so he knows what to expect from him. And I was very impressed with him athletically and just temperament as well. I thought, and 202 centimeters and quite an athletic build. So,
but he didn't. To me, he didn't get as much hype as some of the other the next stars. But he was probably the most consistent. Like he was just out there getting work done. He didn't look like a next star. That's the thing about it. He looked just like a bona fide import. So I think he'll come back this year and maybe step it up another notch and be a great asset for them.
I guess that's what he's looking or hoping for. That's what's going to happen. And we've got Milton Doyle. Now it's finally confirmed that will be with Melbourne United, the arch enemy of Tasmania Jack Jumpers.
That'll be interesting when he goes back home for sure. I don't think the Jack Jumpers crowd will be that happy with him.
You reckon? No. See,
we said the same about Bryce in Perth. And
I'll be looking forward to seeing what happens.
Oh, that's going to be a boo all the way around the arena.
You think?
Oh, for sure. Especially to everything, how it ended.
Yeah, but that's not on him.
That's not on him.
That's on their management.
They're not going to understand that. That's definitely not on Bryce. Bryce did everything the right way. I don't know if Perth did it the wrong way, but Bryce did it the right way. It just didn't work out. Let's see.
But how can you boo a guy who's hit so many game-winning shots for you and has taken you through such joy and exhilaration at what he's done? You know, like how can you then, he comes in, he's wearing a different uniform, boo. You know, it's like, I can't.
Look, the Perth fans have been great. Like they were probably the most brutal outside of Illawarra. But Illawarra was tough.
Okay.
But Perth was probably the most brutal towards me during my career. But my last game there, they gave me a standing O at the end of the game, and you know, gave me a good send off, gave me the game ball. So you know, we obviously knew that was my last game, but they gave me a great. So I was actually a little emotional about that the Perth fans were stepped aside and put everything aside. But I don't know if the Jack Jumpers crowd will do that.
And let's get to the controversy now with Kendric Davis and the Adelaide 36ers. To me, it's much ado about nothing, really. It's over. He's gone. Yeah. Why is he bitching about what Adelaide didn't do or did do? Why is Adelaide putting out a club statement saying this, that, and the other? Like, who cares? Move on. Be an adult.
This is what I think, and I think it's a bit petty, probably on Kendric Davis' side. I would believe Adelaide went after him, and probably gave him a pretty sufficient offer. Like I would think they've done the right thing by offering him a contract. I think once Bryce came, it probably made Kendric feel a certain type of way because Bryce is an upgrade. As good as Kendric is, Bryce is an upgrade for the fact that he can do everything Kendric can do, but he's going to bring that positivity off the court as well. And I think maybe Kendric felt a certain way about it, but I don't know why he's bringing it up. It doesn't matter. He's already signed.
Well, what are you saying with timelines? Like, Kendric now seeing that, they've signed Bryce, now he's revisiting the process because Bryce was signed well after Kendric. Kendric's been signed with Kings for
a while.
Yeah. So you're saying he's seen that they've signed Bryce and it's like now he's a little pissy about it?
Yeah. Didn't think they'd get anybody better than him. That's what I think he thought.
Oh, okay.
They wouldn't get anybody better than him, and they did.
Well, as you said, the 36ers have got the general manager of the century, don't they?
Of the century.
Did you say that?
Yes, of the century. Who else has brought Bryce to the LA 36ers?
I keep thinking, even now, I'll just stop during the middle of the day and go, Bryce Cotton is playing for Adelaide.
Well, look, I think it probably had a lot to do with also Adelaide playing in that cup with the international clubs, and they need to have a good standing. If we keep saying that they're one of the best teams in the or the second best league in the world, when we bring over great teams like we're bringing over, then LA needs to step up. So boosting that lineup probably, I think, has a lot to do with that.
Still amazes me. It's still by far the biggest
GM of the century. That's why.
Me? Oh no, thanks very much. We're not going to mention him because he would already have trouble getting in here. Okay, viewers' topics. Let's go. John Wright, he's sent us a couple of good questions. If you won the $70 million lottery, would you put any of your winnings into anything basketball at all? Anything basketball related?
Not even a little bit. Not as far as an NBL team, if that's the case.
You won the lottery, you can do whatever you like.
Kids wouldn't play for basketball. Kids would not pay, period.
Right.
I would take out their fees, period. I have a huge issue, even though I do charge a lot, to train kids, that kids have to pay to play basketball. Like it's such a great sport. We do it through the schools at home. It is now moved on past the schools as a primary source of basketball, but I would say kids wouldn't pay. What would you do?
I would build a venue that's 3-on-3 specific.
Really?
Okay, and then really make that in Australia, if you want to be a really good 3-on-3 player, maybe go to the Olympics, go to these cups and things, you come and you play in a consistent competition that is designed just for that, exclusively for that.
Shoot HQ, Melbourne, Notting Hill, that's what we're doing. So we're going to be 3-on-3 location there. We're thinking alike, Boti.
Okay.
That's dangerous.
All right. Number 2. It's probably been discussed before, but in the next 10 years, where would you want an NBL franchise to start up? Multiple destinations, whatever you want to say. But here's the kicker. We have to come up not just with the team, but a team name and possible ideas for a logo or mascot. No, I'm good. I'm
Was
good
this
to go.
a GM from the NBL? Somebody trying to get some free ideas?
Well, I'm thinking, like, I really love the fact that the Darwin salties, like calling the crocodile a salty is very, very Australian.
Yes.
And Darwin, where they are, they do exist in number. I just think that's a great nickname, and that I would love to see an NBL franchise in Darwin, and that the logo for me would be a crocodile holding a ball with an evil smile on its face, like, I'm going to devour you. That's me. What?
Well, I'll go back and dig up Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. After coaching there, being there for a while, it was such a great place to have a professional team at. So we go back to Gold Coast and Gold Coast Gunners.
Gunners?
The Gunners.
See, I would have thought you were going to go down the surfers line, Gold Coast surfers.
Yeah, Gold Coast Gunners. It's a lot of people in the Gold Coast that are hanging out with some subservient guys.
Okay. You're starting up a new NBL franchise, and Big Larry says you can have one existing player from the NBL to build your franchise around. So that's anyone that marquee and import next up, who would you build around that's available now? We can't say, all right, I'd take Leroy Loggins in a heartbeat, or Andrew goes, no. Yeah. They've got to be playing in there at the moment.
Bryce.
I had this conversation with someone else, and I said the same thing. It's still Bryce.
Still Bryce. I mean, he's what, 35 now?
Yeah.
The way he plays, he hasn't slowed up any. So maybe and he's such his body is he's such, in great shape. I think you get another good solid 3 years out of him. And then probably after the end, it may slow up a little bit. But yeah, definitely Bryce.
All right, another good one from Johnny Wright. It says, you're able to abolish or change 3 rules in the NBL competition. What would they be?
Abolish or change? One, we'd have a solid salary cap. Right. No question about it. Everyone would adhere to one salary cap. No soft cap, no, marquee, no. I mean, all the rules I feel like are in place now are in place for the teams with more money to cheat.
Sure.
And it just throws an imbalance in the league. So that'd be one. What do you got?
Look, I'm more on the court. You know me. I would bring back. You can't get your hand under the ball when you're dribbling. That's carrying the ball. I would bring that back. I would erase the gather step bullshit that's grayed up the whole travel area. Used to be black and white travel. You landed, you had a pivot. Right. Now it's all. I'd get the travel back and jump balls.
You like to jump ball?
I do. I think other than under 10s and under 12s, where they have a lot of scragging and everyone's grabbing the ball, where the arrow keeps the flow going. After that, 14s onward, jump balls.
I would like to see the jump ball back. That wouldn't bother me.
You would have done strategic things where you've got a smaller person in the jump and you're looking at whose eyes are going where he's going to tap.
We had screens on it, all kind of stuff. We actually ran a break on, jump ball fast break. So I'd like to jump ball to bring it back, but that this I would get rid of. This I'm tired of seeing.
Oh yeah,
I am tired of seeing this.
Okay, yeah.
And when they're so blatantly wrong,
yes.
I see guys clobber guys. No, put your finger down. Put your finger down. So that'd be one.
I was going to say, you've had 2. I've given you 3. You got a third one?
I got a third one. I would allow trades.
Okay, that's good. In-season trades up to a certain date. Yeah, we've discussed that before. I just thought of another one. I would erase, when you block a shot, when someone's downward flight, it counts. I'd erase that. Yeah. You can block a shot. You can knock it off before it gets to the ring.
Before it gets to the ring, as long as it's not coming down.
No, I don't care if it's coming down.
Oh, well, you never would make a shot then. Everybody would just stand there and knock it out the way.
No, we're going to get dunks happening. It gets balls pinned against backboards. I want to see that.
Someone would shoot and they just knock it away from the rim.
What about 3?
Yeah, what about 3? I would
3. Yeah, I'd love to block a 3.
Well, also the owner of the league couldn't own a team in the league and also pay the refs. And also be in charge of the referees committee and the players committee and yeah.
We're warming up now. All right. If we had an extra $1,000 or $2,000 to spend per podcast on production, what would you like to spend it on?
What would you do?
There's 2 things. One, I would probably have more clips. When we're talking about someone, maybe get a clip on, but I mean that you have to pay for that because there's copyright rules. And the other one is guests. I'd get some guests in. It'd be nice to fly Big Joe in from Wollongong or Darryl McDonald from Brisbane and say, hey, come on, sit down and let's chat.
I think we can get some guests in for free.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'll pay our producer more money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Was that his
I'll
voice?
just line the producer's pocket.
Yeah. Was that his voice we heard earlier? I don't know. Ballaholic, Joey, can you share some of your rules and conditions that you had for your players?
Yeah. Happy to share them. We had some rules. One, you had to be a good teammate. All right. And that we'd sat down at the beginning of the year and we'd talk about what that looked like.
Yep.
So we'd be a good teammate, be unselfish on the basketball court. So I didn't care if you shot a bad shot as long as no one was open. If you're one of my top 3 or 4 players, I expect you to take 2 or 3, 4 bad shots a game. But if someone's open, then no, we can't do that. And you had to have fun. I used to actually put that in my rules at the beginning of the year, and we talk, and I say, you got to have fun. And some players would just look at me and go, what do you mean? And I go, you got to have fun. That's one of our 5 rules. So have fun. And players, they just never even thought of that concept before of having fun.
But did you explain what that looks like too? You know, like, because sometimes when you thread a pass through for a guy for a layup, that's such a good moment.
Well, cheering for one another is some of the most fun you'll have.
Yeah.
You know, someone dunks the ball and you jumping up and down and having fun. But we talked about what that looked like. But the guys that I knew struggled with it, I would challenge them during practices and during games and just go, hey, you having fun? And I did that to Nathan Sobey one time.
I'm guessing the answer was,
the answer was, I'm effing trying. That's what the answer was.
Viewers, so am I. I'm trying to have fun. What can you tell you? Who's the most undervalued import in the NBL?
Not that he was undervalued, but I don't think enough people said things about Doolittle. I thought Doolittle was really, 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 really good last year.
Again, I had this conversation with our producer pre-show, and he said exactly the same thing. But I think Doolittle was recognised as one of their leading players. There was Bryce, and then who? Doolittle.
Not a lot of people outside of it ever talked about him. The stuff that he did, like I put it this way, I've never been in a basketball conversation about him with anybody.
Really?
In Australia, no one's ever come to me, oh, that guy from Perth. And he was a beast when he came back off injury. Like he came back and whatever he did when he was injured worked because he just dominated that position for that whole year. I think Doolittle.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with Marcus Lee because I thought the role that he played, he did it very well. You're coming off the bench.
Well, I don't think it was a reason not to talk about him. I can't hit free throws.
Oh, come on.
He show up one game.
His shoulder was busted.
He show up one game he doesn't show up. I mean,
hey, Jack White didn't even hit the ring several times.
Jack Steele were a little bit more productive all the way around.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He's undervalued. All right, the NBL always cracks down on a new rule each season. Is there one you fellas would like to see called more often this season?
They do. I hate when they do this too. Every year they sit us down and go, oh, the emphasis for this year is going to be travel. The emphasis this year is going to be holding on the block. It should be a rule. It should be an emphasis all the time. Like you shouldn't have to look at something more in one season versus another season. I'd just say let them play a little bit more off the ball. Like European basketball, off the ball is physical.
Yes.
But to me, that was the fun part. But once you get into your shot, they protect the shooter. I think here, sometimes they don't protect the shooter enough.
Okay. Aaron Gagol says, have you lost 2 great colleagues or players over the years to other industries? Like in my case, talented journalists changing career paths or basketballers changing to different sports. Like we've had Dean Brogan that won a championship with the 36ers and then he won a premiership with Port in the AFL. Scott Pendlebury gave up his chance to go to the AIS on a basketball scholarship to play for Collingwood. So, Aaron Phillips.
Well, I had Kirk Tippett when he was younger, and he was a development player for us. And he came in and talked to me about what path he should take, and I encouraged him to play football. He would have been a good basketball player, but just a good basketball player. I don't think he would have been a great basketball player. I wonder, all these guys, even Dean Brogan, he was a decent basketball player. He wasn't, lights out. And I just wonder how good of basketball players they would have been. As much as we talk about them and, leaving basketball for football, I don't know if they're like the best.
Aaron Phillips she's a special
Aaron
Hall
is-
of Fame and AFLW.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing right there.
Did you happen to
watch everything?
Did you watch any of that? A Hall of Fame? Because her Hall of Fame speech, I'll tell you, if that didn't bring a tear to your eye, you're a statue. I had a friend, Mark Hoffmeyer, who worked at the Advertiser, a young journalist. In 1994, I got him onto the team to cover the World Championship that was being held in Adelaide and Sydney. So, because I couldn't cover every game, so he was covering some. Mark was going to be a great journalist, and then ridiculously, he decided he's going to be a pilot. And so now, he flies Qantas to Los Angeles and places like that, and Rome. And like, why would you give up sitting at a keyboard to do that sort of thing?
And have everybody tell you you're stupid. I can't believe you did that.
Okay, this is a bit of a follow-on, actually. Is it difficult, Joey, as a coach, to manage kids and even adults that are multi-skilled in other sports, trying to keep them in basketball when they're also being lured somewhere else? So with the girls, it used to be traditionally netball, now AFLW. Like, how hard is that?
Oh, I don't try that. Like that, the one thing I'm not great at is trying to motivate someone to play this wonderful game. Like I'm not great at motivation, because this thing is like, it's one of the best sports in the world. It's wonderful, and if you don't want to play it, I'm not going to beg you, because if you have to beg someone to play the game, they're not going to do it well. I'll just explain the benefits of basketball being a global sport, the things that it can get you right now, the things and benefits it can get you, especially if they're leaving to go to an individual sport versus a team sport. I'll talk about the difference in those, but I just try to lay out what I think basketball did for me and what it could do for them. And then it's their choice. But I'm not the guy that called people, hey, you need to be in the gym. Let's go. Let's come on. Even with my own girls, they don't want to practice. They don't practice. I'm not going to motivate them.
Okay. Let's jump to the NBA. All right. Indiana OKC. You said 4-1 Indiana. It's 2-1 Indiana at the moment. You're looking good.
It's going to be 3-1, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to get him
again in Oklahoma.
I don't think they'll get them again in Oklahoma. So I think
so before 2.
Yeah.
So okay. So you dialed it back a little bit. So
dialed it back a little bit.
Those people that bet on what Joey had to say, sorry. He tells me I don't understand betting, but because I said Melbourne in 4 or Illawarra in 5.
Oh, you know what? In that case, Indiana in 4
or
5.
Oh no,
or
no,
6.
That's not what I did.
Or 7.
That's the same team. That's the same team. I said
or
Melbourne.
OKC. No. If those don't work, can you do that? No. If those 4 scenarios don't work, I'll pick OKC.
No. Okay, I'm just going to remind you. I said that if Melbourne are going to win, they have to do it in 4 because they wouldn't be able to take them in 5.
All right.
And that's how it turned out. Jeez. All right, Coach's Corner. You sent me a whole bunch of good things. Why super teams don't typically work. Go. Why don't they?
Super teams. All right. We talk about, when we say super teams, we usually talk about names. All right. We're talking about big names.
Yeah.
And obviously big names don't win games. You need strategic positions to be filled, and you need workers, you need scorers, you need defenders, you need communicators. You have to have a little bit of mix of every different thing. Typically, when you bring in a great player, that person's really good at putting the ball in the hole and commanding, and directing and leading. All right. Well, if you got 5 leaders on that team that all wants to put the ball in the hole, it's going to be tough. I had a team with Mark Brackey, big name. Derek Rucker, big name. Leonard Copeland, big name. Sam McKinnon, big name. Who else was on? Stephen Black was on that team.
Smaller name.
Smaller name, but some big names on that team, right? 17 and 15. No one wanted to carry the trash, take the trash out.
Yeah.
No one wanted to chop wood, carry water. We had a bunch of big names. All right.
I got one for you. A couple of years ago, when Sydney Kings named their team, and it was Jerome Randall, Kevin Lish, Brad Newley, Daniel Kickett, Andrew Bogut. Nobody is going to touch this team. Yeah. They're fantastic. Yep. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, anybody who looks at that group is looking at each individual and remembering them at their best.
Exactly.
And these guys were all 32 plus. They're not going to dive on a loose ball. Not one of them is going to dive on a loose ball at that stage in their careers. Yep. So on the one hand, we have people in Sydney saying, they're going to go through undefeated, blah, blah. They didn't win the championship.
No, I don't think they were even very good. Were they?
Yeah, I can't remember who was coaching at that stage. But yeah, they
I don't
didn't.
think
They
very
didn't.
good.
They didn't set the world on fire. But in the pre-season, it was like everyone was jumping aboard,
Yeah.
and it's like you've got to have the guys that are going to
Yeah.
get the skin off the elbows, off the knees, that are going to die on things.
And then it's expectations too. So then you lead into expectations. So you now expected to win
yeah,
every game. And then when you lose, and you're gonna lose. All right. When you lose, then they go, oh, something must be wrong, and then people start pointing fingers. You got to get down and do the hard work. So yeah, super teams typically don't work. You got to have some role players.
I really like your comment. No one wants to take out the laundry. All right, now the big news of this week was the Perth Wildcats have changed their logo, and we're going to actually show you what the Wildcats have put out. Check this out. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So what do you think of that new logo?
It looks like I made it. that's what it
Well,
looks like.
Etch a sketch.
It just does absolutely nothing for me at all. And I'm not even one of those guys that look at, like, most of that stuff goes over my head.
Sure.
Like, what the detail is and the logos and that kind of stuff. But I can honestly say I don't like that one.
There's been just so much anti-logo stuff out there that I'm going to say that I've never seen a new logo that impressed me, because you're so used to the other ones.
Yeah.
So it always takes me a while to come around to it. When Melbourne Tigers changed their last logo before they were Melbourne United, that one looked similar to this, like a kid had done it. But yeah, if they're going to embrace it and it'll become part of the culture, then
I'm sure eventually it'll mesh in. But looking at what they had last year, or any of the years previous, this does not look the best to me.
Okay, well, it's definitely a new era in Perth. Don't forget, subscribe, leave your comments, and we'll look forward to answering them next time.